Hey, what's going on, Golferos? And welcome back to the Salud Golferos Podcast. This is episode 16. Wow, time is flying. Can't believe we're on 16. But really grateful and excited to have our guest on today. We have the creator and creative of Buena Gente Golf, John Madera. John, thanks for jumping on the podcast with us, man.
Yes, sir. Thanks to both of you guys for having me on, and I appreciate it. Excited to chat with you guys.
Dude, we
yeah.
love having you, man. Fan of what
Sweet.
you're doing with Buena Gente.
Appreciate it, guys. Same here. Big fan of what you guys are doing in the golf space and who you are serving, also the audience.
Yeah,
Love.
thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate that. And honestly, that's kind of why we're doing the podcast, because we do have that mutual respect.
Yeah.
Man, I'm trying to think back. I can't even remember when we started following each other on social media. I think it has to be at least a year now.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Raul, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like right around the time that we saw your stuff on social media, I was like, I think it was Hector. Hector was like, man, it'd be sick is like a Guayabera polo. Like if anyone ever came out with something like that, that would be pretty dope. And then I think the freaking Instagram algorithm or speakers, whatever, the spies were like, oh, here's Buena Gente. And the next thing you know, we're seeing your stuff and
It was
we're
me,
like,
man. I
dude.
was spying on you guys, bro.
Well, dude, I'm gonna up you one, dude. And John, first I got aware of your brand was an article that I read on I think it was PGA of America. You had done the PGA show.
Yeah.
And I got really into it because I think it was something about you being a symbol of inclusivity or something towards that effect.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like, oh, dude, this is really freaking dope how you're bringing a different vibe into the golf industry, and again, a little bit more representation for the Latino community, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. It was
That's cool.
definitely excited for them to use that term in the title, and to be just simply interviewed, right? Like in that format, to be able to explain what I was trying to do, or what I see with the opportunity to serve an untapped market. So was really excited, and I'm glad to be able to connect with like-minded folks, so like you guys, like Raul and Ralph. So yeah, excited to keep chatting about it.
Yeah, that's cool. Of course you would find an article on that, Raul. I never knew that.
Well, dude,
That's cool.
I sent it over. I sent it over to you guys because, and John, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it was at the PGA show in Orlando where you kind of had like your big coming out, and I think it was PGA in Latin America that checked out your stuff, and then you kind of went from there. Am I wrong by saying that?
Yeah, so that was an interesting thing, because I always tell people I had no business being there, like zero.
Freaking
business
awesome,
being there.
dude.
I had a few articles that were samples, like prototypes and stuff like that. Wasn't selling any of it yet. So that was the end of January. My Guayaberas came out in like May or something, right?
Yeah.
Or early June. So I had nothing. I just had a few like samples. I did have ball markers. I had a bunch of stickers I was giving out, and I think the green shirts and the cream sweaters was like the first thing I came out. So I had a few of those items. I didn't really travel with a lot of it. And so there I was able to gauge a little bit, like, are people gonna respond to this in a positive or a negative way? And I got both, and I knew I was doing something right, even with the negative responses, So it was there that there was a reporter from Golf Digest that passed by, and she was just looking at the table where I had everything laid out, and she little did I know that people were asking her, like, what's the new coolest thing you've seen? And she started sending people to my booth, like Cobra, Puma. Those guys would come into my
Whoa.
booth. They were like, the reporter from Golf Digest just sent us over here. And then Sunday Golf, those guys are super cool. I think his name's Ronan. He was like, "Dude,
Shout
we
out
Oh
feel
yeah,
Ronan.
like,
Ronan.
Shout out
yeah."
Ronan.
Vice Golf. I just was with them last week. The CEO passed by with the co-founder also. Um, and it was cool. Like I couldn't leave the booth. It was just me. I literally had to ask the neighbor, like, could you wash my stuff? I gotta use the restroom real quick.
Yeah.
I didn't leave at all. So at the end of the day, when I would just pack up, I was spent, and there was like happy hours and stuff, and I'd be walking towards the car, and there were people like, yo, bro, people are talking about you. So it was really cool, like just going to my car, like I was going through like the happy hour and people like drinking and stuff. And there were some folks that would pass by, like some of the guys from Lag Shot, and they were like, yo, people are talking about your brand, man. So it was cool. It was that coming out party, but I had no product. Like I had nothing to give people. But I did gauge the interest, which was the most important thing for me. In a weird way, that was my research, you know.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
That
You're
Thanks,
getting
man.
it straight from the horse's mouth, really,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Dude, so okay, so that timeline, you said they came out and your Guayaberas came out in May, but then you're at the PGA show in January. So like what, a 6 month
And the-
turnaround to
yeah, I mean, and that's fast.
yeah, that's really
That's
fast.
pretty fast. Um, that's without me making a lot of adjustments. It was just like I was very impatient. I was like, let's get it out, let's get it. Made a few changes to the color. I think the thing that really held me up was the color of the print on the cream guayabera. I just like had to get that right because I didn't
Mm,
want it to be like super dark. I wanted it to be kind of light, and also not like totally blend in with the color of the whole shirt, the whole polo.
hmm.
So when you see a real guayabera, it's sewn in. So
Yeah.
you get to see the difference of the pattern from the shirt, maybe from the shadows, or depending how somebody's like, you know, how they're I don't know, hitting the lights hitting it. And that's what I
Hmm.
wanted. I wanted to give it like a subtle effect. So that's really what took most time. But now moving forward, some of the stuff that I'm trying to develop is taking quite some time. I want to make sure I do it right for next year's PGA show.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm excited for that. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Me too, bro.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. And that's so funny because it speaks to we had Luis on the podcast. He
Yeah.
was on episode 6 with Nelson, Talkers with the Turn. Shout out Nelson. Always got to give him his shine. And
Yes, sir.
we started talking about just getting your foot in the door, right? Like just get out there.
Yeah.
And we were talking about a situation that we had where we had a group who saw that we were posting and doing this stuff, and they reached out to us and they were like, "Hey, we were here first." And we're like,
Okay.
"Well, we've been around for a while. We just more recently started getting more active on social media and posting." So I think that's great that within a 6 month span you get out there and you start getting your name out there, because now you are established. You do have the articles. You on that episode we were saying we have a timestamp. We've marked it here that, like in your case, Buena Gente is here. Here's the first iteration. Um, wait and see what's next. So I think that's
Yeah.
really cool. That's what I like about that, is that yeah, you took a shot on yourself, went out to the PGA show,
Yeah.
and now it's like now you have people waiting. Now, like right now,
Yeah.
you just gave a little tease, and we're like, whoa, I can't wait to see what you got next, bro. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
There's a lot of cool stuff coming up, man. And but I think that's the beauty of having somebody like Luis, is he's able to take my thoughts and ideas, which are kind of all over the place, and he's able to organize it in a way where it's like, you know, his title is head of marketing and strategic ops. He's able to put all these thoughts and these ideas into a strategy of over 5 years,
Mhm.
and that gets me excited because I'm like, damn, like you're able to do that I just have a mess in my head. And
You're creative, bro. You got all the
yeah.
ideas flowing. Yeah.
And so for him to do that gives a lot of structure to these thoughts and the conversations I'm having with other brands and people, right? So
Mhm.
it's nice. It's awesome to have him around
Yeah.
and to partner with me.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a great guy, and I really
Yeah.
enjoy speaking with him because he's highly intelligent. Just the way that he
Yeah.
speaks about marketing and approaching social media and things like that. Like, you could tell it's definitely a passion of his.
Yeah.
And I love how passionate he is about your ideas. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I saw that you guys recently were traveling together, and we'll talk a little bit
Mhm.
more about that.
Sure.
But I'm gonna tell you right now, when he's away from you and he's talking about Buena Gente, the man is passionate. Like,
Yeah.
he drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really cool that you guys have partnered and you've done that together, or you've started on that journey now together. So that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I have plenty of good things to talk about Luis, but he's definitely there hasn't been a shortage of people that wanted to partner with me.
Hmm.
Um and I've always been very kind of paranoid about partnering with somebody because
Hmm.
a lawyer one time I was talking to them and they were like, listen, going into business with somebody is like going into a marriage, right? It's easy to get in and it's hard to get out. And that literally like traumatized me. I like it's the thing that stays playing in my head. So
Hmm.
it took a long time for me to get used to somebody and to be able to be like, okay, I can delegate some of these things to somebody. The thing with Luis is that he was like, let me show you what I could do first. He never said, I want to partner with you. He never said that
Hmm.
until he started showing me what he could bring to the table. That he was like, all right, I see John's face and all these things I'm laying out for him, right? That's when we
Yeah.
started having conversations, and it just made sense, man. Like it made it you could see that it wasn't, I've had initial conversations with people, and initially they're talking about, going and partnering or, having a percentage of the company. I'm like, yo, dude, we haven't even worked together.
Yeah.
And Luis was the
Oh,
yeah, Luis is the opposite. He's just like, yo, let me get to work. Let me show you what I can do. You know,
Yeah.
and
I
that
love that.
that for me left me a really, really strong positive impression. I love the
Yeah.
guy. He's like, as you can tell, like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
he's a great guy, and like I said, I really enjoy speaking with him. And
yeah,
Raul, I know I've talked to you about him. We need to link you two up because Raul works on the sales side and his
okay,
9 to 5, so they're very like-minded. Like, Raul,
yeah,
you guys, I think you guys would hit it off, and you guys would just start talking. I know
sure,
you guys would go down a rabbit hole together.
yeah, yeah.
so John, how did that it sounds like more than a partnership. How did that get started? How did you come across Luis? How did give us a little bit of the origin story there, man?
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
used to work for a shopping rewards app. I was the director of product design, and he was in the creative side in the marketing department. And so the funny thing is that, me and Luis didn't have a lot of conversations together. The one thing though is that when I'd walk into the office and I'd pass by his desk, I'd be like, Papi! And he'd be like, Papi! And that was it. And I'd go to my desk. And he'd pass by, go to the bathroom, he'd be like, Papi! I'd be like, Papi! That was the extent of our relationship, man. We worked a little bit on like bouncing ideas off of each other for the company itself, creating personas. I gave him some ideas about video. It didn't quite, a lot of the ideas we had and we talk about didn't quite happen. But we
Mm.
established that working relationship in that company. This was about 4 years ago. And then he left first. COVID hit. I got laid off. I went to another company, and then I started Buena Gente brand, which that was before Buena Gente Golf. And then I
Mhm.
started noticing, wait a second, there's nothing for. I used to have this little character that I wanted that character, which had like the straw hat, like a campesino, straw hat
Mhm.
with a guayabera, but he would do things that Latinos usually aren't known for doing. Like he'd go hiking with his straw hat, right? Or
Yeah.
he'd be planting, I mean, he'd be watering his plants, or he'd be skateboarding or golfing, right? And with the golfing, that illustration, I was like, man, this is kind of cool. So that's when I started thinking of like going all in on creating a golf brand. And when I came out with the shirts and sweaters, he was one of the first ones to purchase the shirts and the sweaters. Then I would come out with something else. He'd come out, and then we just started interacting with each other through Instagram, a lot. We'd have a
Mhm.
lot of conversations. And then I rolled out like an ambassador program, and he was the first one of the actually him and Josh were all came in together, a few of them. It just made sense to have him, Josh, come in at the same time. And then we started building on that. And then it's kind of evolved to what we are now, But our relationship started like 4 years ago with very little, how would I say, little outside of the business world. We didn't know
Mhm.
each other on a personal level.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's okay. That's cool.
that's a
That's interesting.
long-winded
Yeah.
answer, but
No,
No, dude,
yeah.
that's awesome that you're able to give us the details because look, like it kind of all makes sense now when you're talking about that, where he wanted to prove himself as well. It's you know yourself professionally to a certain extent, but how do you actually become? I mean, look, correct me if I'm wrong here again, but it sounds like he's your right hand man.
yeah, yeah,
I like
Mhm.
it completely makes sense on how you fortified that business relationship
100%.
and how you work as an organization nowadays. So that's amazing to hear, John.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks,
Yeah.
man. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
that's really cool. And yeah, once again, I think that just speaks to his character. He wants to
Yep.
prove it to you, and that's super cool. I want to touch on the character you said, because I remember Luis actually explained that to me too a little bit, how you have these little ideas, um, and then you kind of just throw them out there, and then you let them grow, and in
Yeah.
reality, everyone else is like looking at you like, bro, that's not a little idea, that's an amazing idea. Like we need to put that pen to paper, so to speak. Um, with starting the brand Buena Gente, obviously, like you're thinking of that character at first. You're thinking hiking and doing all these other things, and then golf. When did it mold into golf? Where did your passion of golf and like your creative side come together?
Um, I I met one of the guys here in he lives fairly close to me, but he came. I mean, I just first when I first moved to Oregon. This was
Hmm.
2 years ago. My wife and I went out, and she picked up one of those Southern Oregon magazines, and in there was an article on a guy here local that he does a lot of cool things, and he works with his business partners Odell Beckham Jr. And over time, I started noticing, all right, this guy launched like Bogey Boys and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
so I started reaching out to him through all different types of ways. I couldn't get to him. Finally, his EA reached out to me and was like, all right, he says we can, you can meet with him. And I met with him about Buena Gente brand.
Hmm.
Um, and so I was going all in on Buena Gente brand. I wanted to create more apparel for Latinos, right? And and it was just one of these things that one day I was started searching online, and I was like, wait a second, is there anything for Latinos in the golf space? Like I did my desk research, or some people call it secondary research, where it's you're reading the research that other people did, or just like there was nothing out there, like nothing
Hmm.
out there for Latinos. And I was like, you know what? I hit that same guy up, and I was like, I'm gonna do something Buena Gente Golf. And he was like, let's do it. Like immediately, he was like, let's go. And and a few maybe days later, I
Hmm.
started coming up with ideas in my head, like what can that graphic look like? And I always like to do things different from everybody else. And I wanted to make a bold statement. I wanted to have a presence. So that's when I asked my son. I still have the picture. I'm gonna post. I keep saying I'm gonna post it, and it's of me like this. I haven't posted it because I don't have a shirt and my belly's all out in the picture. an iPad, I'm able to trace over it and then import it into Illustrator and vectorize it and everything. But it really came from asking myself that question. Like, it was always about Latinos. It was always Buena Gente brand was about Latinos. When I met Luis, I had mayoketchup.com, mayoketchup.co. So mayo ketchup is mayo and ketchup. It's a dipping sauce we use for fried foods in Puerto Rico, right? When I went one time to Orlando, I started noticing, man, all these restaurants, Colombian, Peruvian, they all have mayo ketchup. And I was like, you know what? Instead of it just being a Puerto Rican thing, it could be a Latino thing. But then over time, I was like, I'm tired of explaining to people why it's mayo ketchup. So I sunset mayo ketchup. I started Buena Gente because Buena Gente always had a good ring for me. And it just, like, one day to the next, it just kind of evolved. Like, something clicked in my head. I was sitting right here in this same spot when I was like, dude, something golf. Like, I'm gonna go all in on golf, because originally it was Buena Gente brand. It was that character that was just swinging a golf club like this, but he had the guayabera and the straw hat. It was an old man, and I wanted to make it an old man missing a tooth, straw hat.
That's awesome, dude.
Because for me, it's always been about, don't judge a book by its cover, right? Like,
Yes.
usually old heads are the ones that have the most fun and are the most humble and are so that was that little character for me was what represented Buena Gente. And at some point it'll make its debut in Buena Gente Golf, but for now it's just sitting in the vault.
I love that, dude. And that was actually going to be one of my questions. I was like, we ever going to see that character? So, all right, cool. I know to expect that. That's cool.
For sure.
I love that you touched on the mayo ketchup thing, because once again that came up with Luis, and I'm telling you, I love that you brought that up, and that's where I'm saying he speaks to your creativity, where he's like, yeah, man, like John's got all this stuff in his head, and like, I mean, it sounds like you almost could start like 4 to 5 other brands just with like your ideas that you have. So that's really cool.
I'm a little all over the place sometimes.
Hey man, no, that's good. You have that creative power, that superpower where you have all those ideas. So that's really cool.
We all do, by the way. Everybody's creative, it just depends how you wanna channel it, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Awesome. That's funny. You knocked out mayo ketchup. That was on my list of questions, and then as you were talking about it, I was like, "Oh, I was gonna ask him about mayo ketchup."
We can go into it,
No,
but it's totally up to you.
No, that's cool. So let's go back a little bit to I want to talk about your background, and as far as you mentioned Puerto Rican, right? Or am I correct in that? Yeah. I think that's a big one, because we're talking about representation for Latinos in the golf space, and that's a conversation that Raul, the guys, and I have had, is that we're in Southern California, we're Mexican American, so a lot of our inspiration is going to be Mexican. That's our culture, and that's what we bring to the table, so to speak. But here we have a lot of gente from Guatemala, El Salvador, stuff like, and people from those backgrounds. I'm trying to figure out how to properly, I don't want to come off naive or whatever, but do you see a lot of Puerto Rican golfers? Like how did you get into that? Because like for us, when we talk about it from our backgrounds, there are not a lot of Mexican golfers. Yeah, we have the Litrevinos and stuff like that, where there's a few, but from a Puerto Rican standpoint, did you have a lot of representation, or did you see someone that you looked up to?
No. Someone that I looked up to, no. I mean, even when I started the brand, it was just kind of like I didn't know what was out there, right? I learned about East Side and Malbon and all after I launched the brand. They were zero inspiration to me, So I was like, oh shoot, I'm kind of like, people compare me to them, and I'm like, that's cool. That's really cool that I was talking to Eric Anders Lang. He saw me in the PGA show. Somebody introduced me to him. He's like, oh, that's kind of like Eastside for Latinos. I was like, that's cool, but it's like I didn't know about them when I started. So for me, I had no inspiration for Puerto Rican golfers, but my dad's been golfing and my brother's been golfing since I was a little kid, And in Puerto Rico, there's tons of golfers. I'm starting to know this now because I've gone back to Puerto Rico for events, right?
Uh-huh.
Like I sponsored with the hats JJ Barea's golf tournament, golf event, you know? And that's when I'm like, oh shoot, golf is like huge in the island. But for me, it was never to do a brand for Puerto Ricans. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't to do a brand for like one single group. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I think Buena Gente is very general. Um, and maybe I'm taking your question a different way, but
No, yeah, go
for
for it.
me, it's representing Latinos in general, right? Now you might hear salsa music in my posts, you might hear like my slang and stuff, like Puerto Rican slang and some of the things, but that's because me, the creator, it's coming through the post. But in no way am I saying I represent this group of people, right? I
Mm-hmm.
want to represent Latinos in like as a broad audience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to stay away from that where it's like you pigeonhole me as, the Puerto Rican brand and we're the Mexican brand, right? And that's why I like my brother, he said it perfectly. He's like, Buena Gente means good people, but good people are all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's one of the things in the PGA show that I really liked is that people were coming to me saying, I bought your shirt, and they were like Asians. There's an Indian guy, and he was like, I bought your shirt just because I saw brown hand. And I was like, I love that. I love it.
Oh, that's cool.
It's dope. And now we chat all the time,
Mm-hmm.
me and him. And he's a super cool dude. Um, and he's got a lot of influence in the PGA tour, like a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
no, PGA of America. He's got a lot of influence there. So just to see how other people are open to this brand, that the name is in Spanish. There is a brown hand, but they all feel attracted to it. I
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And now I'm trying to tap a little more into that, where I say the influence is Latino, but it's for everybody, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that answered your question.
No, yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome, and yeah, you give us more of the background behind it all and the evolution of the brand. That's really cool, and that I think that's super inspiring. The fact that someone from a different ethnicity or background, just
Yeah.
because they saw the brown hand, it's like, oh,
Hmm.
I see myself in that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You've gone to the next level in that sense. That's really cool.
Yeah, and thank you. And I think I posted recently this Hawaiian guy. He was like, same thing. He told me off camera. He's like, I saw a brown hand dude. I had to get the shirt, and he bought it at the local golf course here, where they have only a few of my shirts.
Hmm.
And so it's really cool. Of course, because of the brown hand, it attracts a lot of the black pop golfers, right?
Yeah.
And because of the rings and stuff like that, a lot of people think it's modeled after an urban, younger black or brown person. And I'm like, no, man, this is after my uncle, that he wears all the jewelry, all the chains,
El
is like,
tío, baby, you always have to have
Yeah.
that
yeah,
tío.
everybody's got that cool deal. And
Yep.
that's what I modeled it after, like those old heads that go to the bar on Friday night just to chill with their friends.
Yeah.
And in Puerto Rico, if you go, you'll see a lot of those small bars or small, like, kind of gatherings, where the old heads are just hanging out, listen to salsa loud and stuff like that's the inspiration behind the rings.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
dude,
dope.
along what you just said there, John, I mean, like, look, Ralph mentioned it. There's, for a lot of people who are not really into golf, you ask them, like, name a Puerto Rican golfer, and they're probably going to be challenged. But I
Yeah.
mean, I'm Ralph and I are both hardcore into golf, into sports. But you tell me Puerto Rican golfer, and probably the most hardcore image that comes to me, and every year around the Masters, you see the picture: Chichi Rodriguez,
Yeah.
John Lynch,
Yeah.
most fucking swagged out image of
Yeah.
a Latino golfer. And I love how you talk about, like, these little things that look, it's all the Latino community. We all have that tío. We all know the compadre that likes to have the little flashier rings, the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
chains. So it's cool that you're adding a little bit of that swag without going overboard and not be a
Mhm.
misrepresentation. It's
Yeah.
just fine tunes it enough, man.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that when I first saw the logo with that ring. It's gives it enough to show, like, hey, look, it's a cool brand of golf.
Yeah, thank you. And to your point, right? It's you think of Chi-Chi. Listen, man, when I wasn't into golf, I knew Chi-Chi. Like everybody knows him, whether you play golf or not, right? You think of him and you think the epitome of swag,
Yup.
Oh yeah.
And it's one of those things that I think I started leading with this when I entered golf. It's like, bro, your game could be trash, but if you have that swagger to you, bring it to the course, and be yourself, right? Sometimes a lot of Latinos feel like they can't be themselves. They can't bring that culture, that background, that heritage to the course because you might get looks or whatever, or you just feel like judged. But that's what I wanted to enhance is you for who you are, right? And that's essentially why I did the rings, the brown hand, and there's a lot more behind the image. There's the diversity in the color of the hand. The white glove represents what golf is, the people that call the shots, who make the rules and all these things, right? The larger population, the white glove represents that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the brown hand is showing that we're not here to break rules. We're not here to mess up your course or to be rebellious. We just want to play, and we're gonna have a good time. And honestly, if you play with us, you're probably gonna have a good time also.
Yeah.
So that's really all I'm trying to do, and bring a little bit of that swag from that Chi-Chi has, that other people, that our Theos have that don't play golf, right? Bring that into the course.
Yeah,
that's freaking awesome to hear, man.
I love that you just said that, because as you were explaining the representation with the brown hand just a few moments ago, in my head, I started thinking of like, dude, well, the white glove kind of represents, and then the interlock is the joining of everything.
Yes.
So and that just speaks to your logo. It portrays the message that you were already thinking. So that's really cool. I love that you dive into that.
Yeah.
And I think that's you bring up a really good point there, that when you do the brand, you want to develop inclusion and kind of marry everything, right? It's like we're a part of this game too. Like it's not just the traditional old school white game of golf. It's like we're here, we're gonna add our flair to it, but it's not meant to exclude anyone. It's let's combine it. Which I think is awesome, and it's really something that I think, Raul, correct me if I'm wrong, but that we've tried to start incorporating too, where like down here, I'm in San Diego, so we have a lot of obviously white golfers. There are a lot of white golfers everywhere, but with us, like in LA, Raul has more of a Latino base, right? Like you could get a lot more Latino golfers together up there, and it's really funny because if you look at our analytics for our page, a lot of our followers are in Los Angeles, but down here it's we have a lot more white golfers, and so we've started this golf league this year, and we have this group chat, and it started to become kind of like a marriage of all these different cultures, where like we like to say we have the white guy that's invited to the carne asada. We have a lot of those guys that are golf güeros, as we like to call them. So
but I think that goes back to what John just mentioned. Like I think with golf, it's evolved to, and I forgot who it was, but somebody posted, it was one of the golf Instagram pages, and it was a poll, and they were asking, would you rather golf with somebody who's like a scratch golfer, or would you rather golf with somebody that's a 20-something handicap and is just having a good time on the course?
Oh man, I got a lot to say about this topic, bro. But yeah,
jump into it, John.
Jump into it. I want to
finish what you were saying.
but you know what? Like the majority, and it was a lot. It was like a poll. If I remember the last time I checked, it was maybe like 4,000, 5,000 votes were in, and people said they would rather play with somebody that was a crappy golfer and having a good time. I think that's what it's evolved to nowadays.
100%, man.
Yeah.
100%.
And John, to your point, I mean, like Hector, who is also, him and I were the original founders. We brought in Ralph. He's our version of your boy Luis.
Yeah.
We've never been the greatest of golfers, but my boy Hex has always been like dress good, feel good, and golf's somewhat good. And it's to your point where it's like, hey man, if you feel good, you feel sharp, you're having a good time, you're hanging out with friends, family, whatever it might be, why the heck not?
Yeah,
You don't have to be a scratch golfer.
100%, man. 100%. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that, Raul, because so John, as I told you, I was just in Palm Springs this weekend. We were doing a podcast with Los Compas. So
That sounds familiar.
they're an LA
Golf
based
club.
golf club. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good people.
Rudy
Yeah.
and the boys.
Yes. Great
Shout out
people.
to los compas.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's funny that you bring that up because so the episode's coming out this Friday. So by the time this episode airs, it'll be out. So go check that out, guys. Rudy has a vetting process. Now, just with that word, you're thinking like, oh, you're excluding people. It's actually kind of the opposite. So what he does in his vetting process is he wants to make sure that que eres buena gente, like that you are coming in with tempered expectations. You know, you're not out here to go win like $1,000 cash prizes every weekend or every round. You're not that scratch golfer who thinks that you're gonna go out there and just wipe the floor with everyone. It's no, man. Like, are you here to have a good time? Do you just want to meet other buena gente and like just chill and develop those compadres y comadres and have a good time? So the evolution of golf has definitely been, I think it's starting to make that turning point where it's like, okay, you're good, but are you a cool person to hang out with?
Yeah. I play with good people, and let me tell you, like good golfers.
Yeah.
And I'd rather go with my kid that can't swing. Like, and I say that because even that's like kind of frustrating. You're like, all right, just swing the club, or
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I like I said, I could talk about this specific topic, and I have very, very strong feelings about it. But with that, I tell you everything. Like, I'd much rather play with somebody that's just there to have fun. And I'm not talking about drink, because I don't get plastered or anything. I'd much rather have a coffee on the course than having a drink and stuff. But it's just like good vibes. Put on some cool, chill music. Nothing rapping about killing somebody. Just chill music. Have fun, bust a move if you're feeling good, and that's it, man. On to the next one. If you shanked it a bunch of times, pick up your ball and get going. No big deal, right?
Yep.
No big deal. And so that I'm much of that person. I much prefer to chill and hang out with, and that's why I posted that on my Instagram story the other day. I was like, I want to do an event where if you hit it way right, hey, it's all good, man. Your next one will be, you got another 70 something other shots to go, right? But just celebrate everybody. Are you new? Are you have you been playing for 20 plus years? It doesn't matter. We're just out here to make friends, have fun, and make a memorable experience.
Yeah. Definitely, bro. That's so true. Just pick up your ball and move on to the next one, please.
Yeah. Forget it. It's like a quadruple bogey. Just pick it up, bro. We're having a good time.
Yeah. With us, we cap it at double par. You're at double par. Just move on to the next one.
Move good. On, dude. Keep moving.
No judgment.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So earlier you made a comment about how when you went to the PGA show, there was definitely a lot of good feedback, but there were some maybe negative responses. I kind of want to touch on that because I know that with this podcast we talk a little bit about like the good stuff, the inclusivity, and how everything's growing, but it's not always a pretty picture. What was that like? What was some of that feedback that you were getting that was slightly negative or maybe completely negative?
Well, I don't know if it's feedback rather than what I feel, right? Like the emotions I feel. There's a lot of people from Argentina, Spain, Mexico, and when you get into the golf business world, these guys have their blazers and their ties on, and they're walking around, and I had a huge sign behind me that said, Latino owned, diversity focused.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of these guys that would look at it and just kind of like keep walking and look at each other like, what? you know? And but at the same time, there was, I was reading a book called The Buddha and the Badass, and I've talked about this in the past. He
Mm-hmm.
talks about you want people to either love you or hate you. You don't want to be in the middle. You
Yeah.
don't want to be in apathy. So for me, it was like I think about it and smile and say to myself, I'm doing it right. Something's
Mm-hmm.
working, right? You either push people away or you attract them to your brand. But if people are like, then it's like they say in Spanish, ni fu ni fa. It's like, forget it.
Yep.
So, and then, as I mentioned, I couldn't leave my booth, bro. And so I think the last day I went in really early so I could like look around. But the other days I kind of like after the show ended, I kind of gather my stuff and walk to the car and then kind of go by some of the booths. And you can feel a difference in how they treat me versus how they treated another person coming in after me. Like I'd have people at some of these bigger name brands look at me literally dead in the eye and then keep talking. And somebody comes in a couple of feet behind me and be like, hey, how can I help you? And it exists. It's a real thing,
Yeah.
But instead of getting hung up on it, it's just like, all right, that's what Buena Gente exists for. So people don't feel that. So that whoever comes in, chino, blanco, negro, anything, like, what's up, brother? Well, what's good? Let's, what are you interested in? Who are you? How are, what type of person are you? Do we vibe together? Things like that. But I think even there's good that came out of that for me. Right. It almost went back into the brand. I wanted to make sure nobody felt that. I mean, I have a story that I had mentioned before where when I would play my yearly, like my 1 a year round with my with my buddies back when I never really played, I just kind of go every now and then. I did what most rookies do or most amateurs do, and I left my club behind in the previous hole. And I was like, Audrey, let me go get it. I went to go get it. Some young cat was gonna tee off, and I was like, he gave me the club. He was like, "This yours?" I was like, "Yeah, thanks, bro." He went, "Bro." And that for me, I was like, that turned me off, bro. I didn't play golf for like 6, 7 years. Seriously. No joke. I didn't like, I was like, this is what golf is. This is who it attracts. Some stuck up people, like, and it's a young cat. I was like, this is not for me. I didn't play golf for a long time after that. Of course, family, growing family and work and everything is part of it, but it still to this day, I remember that reaction as if it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that when creating this brand, I just want to make sure nobody ever feels that,
Yeah. That's crazy, bro. Like,
Yeah.
man.
John, if you don't mind me asking, sorry, Ralph.
No, go ahead.
If you don't mind me asking, John, what part of the country was that where that happened to you?
That was in South San Jose, almost Morgan Hill area.
Well, that kind of explains it.
Yeah. I think it was Coyote. I think we were playing Coyote Creek.
Oh, that definitely explains it, man.
Yeah. It was a while back. It was a while back, but it was enough for me to say. That's why I never really got into it. My dad was always into it, and my brother. And I was like, bro, you guys are some pretentious. This is all just pretentious people that, that like they separate themselves from regular people. I would always think that. Right before I moved to Oregon, that's when I started golfing a little more with my friends, and it just felt like more comfortable. I'm a par 3 guy. I'm a 9-hole guy, and that's when I was like, all right, man, I'm getting back into this because you could go dress in a t-shirt, and that's when I started getting back into golfing. Right, I didn't even know that was possible, honestly, because the golf world it was new to me a little bit before I started the brand. So
yeah.
Anyway, I went off, but it was in South San Jose.
No, that's That's good that you bring that up, and I'm telling you, like, well, I'm a very like observant person, so when people are speaking, I start thinking of the like other like stories in my head about like things that have happened to me, um, and it's crazy that you bring that up, the as far as like the way that people make you feel, right?
Yeah,
And I feel that a lot of well, maybe a lot of guys, maybe a little like machismo guys will think like, oh, the way you feel, like, oh, what does that mean? But
yeah,
no, it's a real thing. So once
yeah,
again, like I'm here in North County, San Diego. Raul's in the LA area, and I don't want to speak for Raul, but like I said, I feel like LA, there have it's a little bit more Mexican based. There's definitely there's it's a melting pot. There's a lot of people in
Oh,
Los
we have
Angeles, right?
everything on here.
Yeah, you have everything in LA. Whereas in San Diego, there are a lot of Mexicanos, but this is a very, at least in the 90s when I grew up, it was very rural. So um,
yeah,
all those Mexicanos was you were on the farms, you were in the ranches, and my dad had a ranch. So I
yeah,
grew up, working on a ranch with my dad. Um, and so with that, I would have like sometimes dirty clothes, dirty jeans, and I feel like I would walk into a store and I get the feeling where
yeah,
they were just looking at me like, oh,
sure,
what's this little paisita doing walking in here and stuff like
yeah,
that. Um, and I think it's very important to talk about that when we're talking about inclusion because um, shout out to Dom from Safe Par. I know you were on the Safe Par podcast with them.
oh yeah, yeah,
One time we were talking about getting looks and what it felt like to walk onto a range, like, oh, you don't belong here. And he was like,
yeah,
oh, shoot, like that happens. Like, and it's like, yeah, man, like it's crazy. Just the look can give you a feel like I don't belong here. Like, no one can say anything mean. Like,
100%.
and
Yeah,
it's just like, yeah, man, like the next time you see a brown kid out there, just like throw them a smile or like a thumbs up or something, and that'll go miles for them. Because
yeah,
like in your situation, just the bro, like
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
rubbed you the wrong way for years. And
yeah, for
yeah.
years. No, you're so right about that. I mean, I've been working a lot with what my feelings are when I get a look, at least how I interpret looks, right? Because it's all up to interpretation, right?
Hmm.
When we came to Oregon just to look at houses and peruse and just look around, I told my wife, I'm getting a lot of looks. And then she told me it's because you're looking for them. And that changed everything for me.
Yeah.
Literally, they're the nicest people here, the nicest. Um, and so now tying that to what happened to me the other day, I was gonna go down the street to the driving range. There's a driving range down the street from where I live, and it
Hmm.
was completely packed. And there was one, it's like sitting in the back of the class or in the back of the bus. It's because nobody can look back at you, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then you sit in the front, you feel judged by everybody. There was one stall where it was in front of everybody. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a risk and I'm gonna go and with my janky swing, I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna own this and dude, it was the best I've ever felt, honestly, on the range. My shot might say otherwise, but it's the best I felt.
Yeah.
And there was like this older man, dude, old white guy. That when I finished, he was like, "Hey, what's that logo you have on your shirt?" And I was like, "Oh, this is I call it driving range jersey." He's like, "Bro, send me the link to that." Older man, and he said, "That's sick." And it was just like he was probably pushing 80,
Yeah.
and for somebody, a white older man to see that stuff and say, "Dude, that's cool." I wouldn't have gotten that if I didn't put myself in an uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
And that made me feel, even on top of the fact that I felt good at the range, it made me feel even better that I had that interaction with that guy.
Yeah.
So it really all depends on, how, of course, we might get looks, but it's like, how much do us ourselves feed into it or feed
Mhm.
that?
Yeah.
Is it, you're going to get looks no matter what. That might keep us off the range forever.
Yeah.
But if you own and say, yeah, I'm brown. Yeah, I'm here. I don't look like your average golfer. Yeah, I'm very new. You could tell by my swing. It's like you could tell I'm very new. you know, at the end of the day, people aren't thinking bad about you as bad as we think, you know.
Yeah.
But you're right. There are looks. You know, at the end of the day, there are looks, and you know, my experience from what I told you earlier is a good example of that, where people are like, "Bro, no, you're not one of us," you know.
Hmm.
But it's all about taking those experiences and looking for the positive in it, or trying to steer away from those type of interactions. Also, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's kind of crazy too, though, like that we do have to go through that, though. We have to grow
Mhm.
up learning how to decipher it, right? It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
okay, like, is he really looking at me like that, or is
yeah,
he
yeah,
just like, what's up? Yeah.
for
So,
sure.
so to anyone listening, whatever your background is, just I hope that they understand that that's something that's out there. That one,
Yeah,
either you're not alone, or if you're on the flip side of it, like, hey man, like this is how minorities feel sometimes, where it's just like, man, it can feel that we're kind of a little bit on an island, and
yeah,
we have to make that connection sometimes. Like, all right, we're gonna go, like you said, you put yourself there in that first stall, or in that spot in front of everyone, and you made it a good interaction. So
yeah. Exactly.
that's cool. Right on. Um, so up next, I do want to talk about we were kind of hinting about it earlier.
Mm,
I noticed on social media recently that you and Luis went out for an event for Mark Anthony's organization. Can you
yeah,
talk to us about that? What was that all about? That looked really cool. I know it was
yeah,
some
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
charity event. So.
Yeah, the one organizing everything, she reached out to me and she said, "Hey, you know, we're part of Mark Anthony's foundation. And we're wondering if you guys would like to donate something to the auction." And that was right around the time that Luis started working with me, and that was actually Luis's first meeting with me, with some, you know, with a potential like partner.
Hmm.
And I said, you know what? I'd love to do more than just donate a piece for auction. Can we like sponsor at some capacity? You know, can we get our name out there? She was like, let's jump on a call. And that's when I was like, Luis, you know, there's this opportunity. Let's hop on this call. Luis is much better at organizing, you know, the thoughts and kind of downloading them and like sending, like putting them all into notes and saying, hey, this is a recap of everything. And that's exactly what he did during that conversation. Well, a foundation will always try to make as much money as possible, right? Because what they want to do is give all that money towards the cause.
Hmm.
And so, in order to donate or sponsor, you need to pay also on top of that, right?
Oh wow.
And so, I just said, hey, listen, we're a small brand. We are representing the underrepresented, or the unrepresented, and we are doing something for a good cause also. Can you try to make a case with the people in your organization to let us represent this brand, which in turn is for our people, you know? And they
Hmm.
came back to us and they were like, yeah, man, it's a go. It's, you guys got the green light. Let's do it. Then we started brainstorming. What is it that we can, what is it that we could give? Is it ball markers? Is it, and we hadn't done towels yet. And that's when we got, you know, straight into it. Dane from Matchstick Golf helped me out, get the right manufacturer for the towels. And yeah, like Luis was like, hey man, I want to make sure that everything is on time. And I was like, Luis, dude, nothing ever comes out right with manufacturer. You'll see. But over time, he was like, dude, I'm starting to see what you mean with this. But man, it was so smooth. They landed on time. We went to Miami. You know, he was able to capture some footage of me interacting with some of the people there. And it's cool, you know, every time I've gone to an event, there's at least one person that recognizes the brand, you know.
Hmm.
Was a lady there that kept looking at me and talking to somebody else, and this older lady, she came over to me and in Spanish she said, "Are you the Instagrammer?" I was like, I guess you could say I'm an Instagrammer. She was like, "Oh, my boss, she follows you and stuff." So it was really cool, you know.
Yeah.
It was a successful event. Made a few connections over there, Yeah, man, we're just excited for what's to come. More of that in the future, hopefully. But most importantly, it's for the cause, right? I want to always make sure that what we do has meaning and intent, and it's not just, you might have heard this, that I've said this in the past, it's not just cause, right? I'm not doing a shirt just cause. I'm not doing, anything just because I want to sell something. There's a meaning behind it. It has a purpose. There's real intent behind it. So his foundation just made sense, and I love to be part of something that it's towards a good cause.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome, dude. And I
Yeah.
think that, and I think that's what's really exciting. And Raul, maybe you could speak to this, but we've talked on a couple episodes of the podcast where we feel that a lot of the big companies they've lost that soul, right? It's like, what
Yeah.
are you really standing for? Are you
Yeah.
really representing anyone? And so it's great to see businesses such as yours like have intent and have a meaning and actually give something back to the people. So I think that's really cool.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
without a doubt, man. Getting involved with organizations that are representing our people and
Yeah.
still exposing your brand to look in those type of events, you have a lot of the movers and shakers. So
Hmm.
the type of networking, the type of connections you're making along those lines are valuable, man. So it's freaking
Yeah.
amazing that you guys were able to make it work out and see what the fruits of that tree are going to come out of.
Yeah, man. I'm hoping for a lot of cool projects coming out of those connections. Made a few connections there, so yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Um, Next up, what I wanted to ask you, John,
Yeah.
is, once again, there's always the good and the bad, right? So with you have the creative side, which, you're able to take the things out of your mind and put them into real life, such as like the logo that you're rocking right there on your hat. What was one of the biggest obstacles that you had when starting the business?
Expectations, attaching myself to outcomes. It's it doesn't matter if it's this, anything you do in life. I've learned that when you attach yourself to outcomes, you're almost always um, not happy with with the results. And so being able to, well, in the beginning, also my impatience was a big issue. I don't know. I'm not an apparel designer. I'm a digital, like I design digital products, right? Apps,
Hmm.
websites, all this stuff. And so apparel design is something new to me. So the timeline, if you talk to a manufacturer and he's like, yes, I could do it in 7 to 10 days. And I'm like, okay, cool. In 7 to 10 days comes around. I'm like, hey, how are things going? Like, did you send it off already? He's like, no, we're barely getting the fabric. I'm like, what? Like, what is going on here? So now all of that, all those growing pains, it's tough, man. But the most important thing for me that I'm learning is just go with the flow. Don't attach yourself to any outcomes. And usually the eye that I have for certain things, the general public doesn't, right? A creative person like is nitpicky. And my wife
Hmm.
always says, dude, there's things that I've sold that I've kept them for a long time. And then I release it and it sells out. And I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't know. And my wife's like,
Hmm.
people don't see things the way you see it. All right. The people you have people that support you. They love the brand. They subscribe to what you're doing. Put yourself out there and try not to be a perfectionist. But a lot of those things, that undecisiveness, trying to be a perfectionist, attaching myself to outcomes, and being impatient, dude, I got tons of lessons, tons, in just a year and a little over a year and a half. But it's helping me evolve into a better, I think this is all training to be a better business mind and a better business person, a better leader, to the point where when I think grows to a point where I can help other people through some of these hardships, or through some of these rough patches, and say, hey man, it's just important to go with the motions and don't attach yourself to these things, or just things like that, life lessons. I think all of this is preparing me to be a better mentor and a better leader for people in the future.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, we're with you on that, man. We've definitely
Yeah,
gone through those through those rough patches
I'm
too. We're
sure.
just like, oh man, like we were hoping this would be done already, and yeah, no, we're
Yeah,
with you on that. Um, next up with you know, with the ideas that you're putting out, kind of like what we, as I mentioned earlier on, a lot of cultures use the guayabera, right? The
yeah,
Mexican culture, we use it as well, and you know, we've spitballed it. We're like, oh, that'd be cool, but then we saw your brand, and we're like, oh, that he's doing it better. That
yeah.
that's the guayabera guy. But I noticed recently there's some more brands starting to come out with it and stuff like that. Um, how do you feel about that? Is it like cool, like there's other people following suit with me, or is it more like do you feel competition with that? What's your take on that?
I've seen other brands, and I don't feel competition at the very least, like at all. And I don't mean it in a bad way. I think the story, when I first started, I remember in the PGA show, people were like, people are gonna rip this off, right? There are manufacturers here that are right. I would go to the bathroom, come back, and there were people taking pictures of the shirts that I had on the booth.
Oh, dang.
And somebody told me tomorrow there will be polos that look like this tomorrow, because
Mhm.
there's manufacturers from all over the place. There's creators from all over, right?
Mm.
And I got a bit paranoid, and my buddy told me on the phone, he's like, something they can never take away from you is your story. Like
Mhm.
how you've positioned the guayabera, right? What's the story behind it? One time somebody sent me a DM and he was like, "Bro, I got my polo. I feel like all I need is a fedora and a cigar." And that for me felt like, all right, I did it. Like I nailed it. I nailed the story. Because if I could put somebody in a time and place, then I'm doing my job. I'm
Mhm.
doing it right. I'm doing it effectively. And but that's my story, right? And somebody else might be doing guayaberas and telling a different story. That's why I don't feel that competition. I promote the guayaberas with kind of that Caribbean flair. Not that
Mhm.
it's just for Caribbeans, but it has, you hear the music and you almost feel like heat. You almost feel like you're in the tropical sun. You almost want a beer, like things like
¿Quieres
that.
bailar?
Yeah,
You're like, oh.
yeah, quieren bailar, tirarte un pasito y todo eso. And those are the type of things that I'm like, that's my story, right? And it's not just for Caribbeans, but it's to put you in a time and place. Like there's a lot of white people that buy the polos
Mhm.
because
Oh yeah.
they love to
Oh yeah.
feel like, all right, like this is a it's a different flair, it's a different vibe, right? That it's not your everyday thing. But I don't necessarily feel any competition or like somebody's ripping me off, because what I've been able to carve out is Buena Gente story. You can look at a polo and be like, that's a Buena Gente polo or Guayabera, and then this other one, it'll be theirs, right?
Mhm.
um at first I was like, oh, that's it's something different. It's not new, right? Because even I'm sure I'm not the first guayabera. For sure, nothing under the sun is has been invented for the first time, at least at our age, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we don't own colors, we don't own ideas. They're just things we put together, and the combination of ideas might make something different. But
Mhm.
I don't feel an attachment where I say this is my lane. Nobody should do guayaberas. Um, I, I would love to see more guayaberas. Then I know that culture's popping.
Yeah.
I would love to see it. I would love to see. I'll be honest with you. I'd love to see some Los Golferos guayaberas. You know, that'd be hard with the little character there.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, um, we're moving forward with other things. I mean, it got to a point where I was like, all right, I'm not doing guayaberas anymore. And Luis was like, bro, this is your thing. Like, don't move away
Don't
from
leave
that.
it. Come on now. Yeah.
Don't move away from that.
Yeah.
And so, there's other styles of guayabera, but I don't want to be known as the guayabera guy.
Yeah. No, and honestly, that was the answer that I hope that I would get from you in that,
Yeah.
because that speaks to that level of inclusion and pushing for more Latinos in the golf space, right? Because you can't be the only one, right? Like, it's the same thing with us. Like, we're not the first to invent the Sarape golf towel. We won't be the last. There's other people doing it. And I know that I've received, like, and Raul, you've probably received messages from people where it's like, oh man, like someone's doing the towel now too. It's like, cool,
Yeah,
we've done
yeah,
our job. Like,
Yeah,
like
we,
more.
we we add our own flair to it. I mean, to your point, John, it's the design you added to your Guayabera. Like you said, it wasn't the first, but it's the one that spoke more to the Latino community. Because I've seen even Cubanera,
Yeah.
which is pretty much like, made in China Guayaberas. They had a polo like that, but they didn't have the intricate design like you added to. Like you said,
Mm.
like it almost gives you the feel like you have those pleats in the Guayaberas.
Yeah,
Because my
yeah,
dad is a Guayabera guy.
yeah.
Like Ralph said, like in the Mexican culture, it's a big part of it, and it's that feel you
Or-
get with that shirt. It's the design on that shirt. And other companies have done it, but I think maybe it's because of that authenticity that you bring to the table. It differentiates from others that are out there.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, man. I appreciate that. I definitely, but different people call it, right? What the Caribbeans call it guayaberas. I know there are Americans that call it Mexican wedding shirts, right? That's
I've heard
Yeah,
that.
I've heard that
Yeah,
before.
you heard that? Mexican
yeah.
Yeah,
wedding shirt. And then there's other Americans that call it the bowling shirt or something like that. I don't know.
yeah. Well, you
And
know who
so
you
it's,
blamed for the Mexican wedding shirt? That was Banana Republic, dude.
oh yeah,
No,
But yeah,
really?
Banana Republic was
Mexican
advertising them
wedding
as
shirt.
such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, but it goes back to even the logo. Everybody has a different story. They made up a different story or idea or interpretation of it. And with the polos, it's the same thing. It's like for one person, it might feel like you're on vacation. For another person, it might feel like, I don't know, like there's the hybrid of going to play on the course and then going to a restaurant with the guayabera, stuff like that. But I definitely don't like to. I don't want to pigeonhole myself, as you could see, right? Like I did a gold ring one day, and then the next I did a guayabera, and then the next day it's like something completely different, like a baseball jersey. I love to do different things, like innovate
Mhm.
in the space. And I feel a lot of companies just slap their logo on stuff, and it's like, dude, there's a million of those there. But what
Mhm.
can really stand out from the crowd, right? So it's like for me, it was the clash of a baseball jersey and a golf logo. And again, I won't say I was the first one to do that, but I haven't seen many around, right? I did actually recently see a few other brands doing it, and I'm like, dude, that's cool because that's different. It's like really different. And I think in our culture, there's so many things that we could do. And it's like what you guys do with the towels, right? There's the sarape, and then there's that print. What is it? Is it a elephant skin or ostrich or what is it?
Yeah,
Um,
our pleather is either we have the snake skin, we
Makes
have
sense.
the alligator skin, or the crocodile skin. Yeah, we try to use like the
Yeah,
exotic pleathers on there.
yeah. Like you guys will have that, on boots or on belts, right? But now you're
Hmm.
Yep.
putting it on what holds the towel together. So it's like
Oh, I
that
think we lost you,
meld or
John.
that mixture.
Lost you for a quick second.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
he's good. I
Oh,
think it was
okay.
your end.
Might have been on my end. My bad.
And then so it's just like that mixture of different things that makes it so unique to the brand and in turn for the people that want it, you know?
Hmm.
Um, Latinos are dying for representation. We're dying for it. When we see it, we jump on it and we spend the money. We have the money to spend. That's what people
Oh yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Hispanics have a lot of spend power, and they're just waiting for people to represent them. You know?
Yep. Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah.
So John, the one
Like,
thing one question I have for you, because I mean, dude, I'm 44. I kind of grew up like in the early onsets of so-called streetwear before it was even streetwear, and a lot of the stuff I see you put out there, like the Bouquet of Blades T-shirt, which is one of my freaking favorites. I got lucky, I ordered that one, and
Oh, cool.
even like
Nice.
the Hooks and Slice one. like it gave me a really streetwear vibe. Like the hooks and slice one, it reminded me of like freaking, late 90s, early 2000s, like Stussy, the hundreds type of thing. How much
Yeah.
influence did you have on with some of those brands? Are any of those brands an influence to you or anything like that?
No, no, not really. I mean, I like the comparison, and it makes sense to me, right? Um, I'm 41, so I was around for a lot of that stuff
Yeah,
too.
so
But
similar era.
yeah, yeah. But for me, it's I didn't want to do streetwear. I didn't. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted on-course. I wanted to do on-course stuff and
Mhm.
more formal stuff. What I but the audience tells you what they want, and you have to listen. And every time I do a shirt, that those things sell out quick. I still got, the polos are starting to wind down, but they don't move as quickly as t-shirts now and as hoodies. But the hooks and slices and the bouquet of blades, all these are just ideas that I have, and I'm sitting on other stuff. But now what I'm hearing from people is, bro, we just want the grip. We want the grip. So now I'm going to start moving away from some of those designs and just focus on different styles of the grip. If it's big, if it's in the back, if it's smaller, hit on the left chest, stuff like that. And now going back to your question, I didn't really have a lot of influence from those places. For me, like the hooks and slices, I wanted to create almost like when you go shopping
Like the big grocery store
yeah,
posters.
grocery
That's
store, those
yeah.
posters are like
That those
hands
were like the
off.
old school ones. Like yeah,
Yeah,
it's exactly
that
the
was
vibe.
the inspiration behind it, because that for me it was like, if you're looking at me shank the ball and hook it and slice it, I might as well charge you. So that was the inspiration. Like, if you're gonna sit there and stare at me while I while I make a fool out of myself, I might as well charge you $11.99 per bucket. You know. And
Uh,
then the bouquet of blades is just something that came to mind. I've seen things where it's like the stand bag of like a golf bag and then flowers coming out of it. And that was after the fact. Like I said, I'm sitting on some of these for some time, and I'm like, crap, I should have came out with this before, because now people are gonna think I'm biting. But yeah, it's I'm kind of at that place right now. Is like, do I continue doing graphic T-shirts with all these different things, different ideas, or do I just stick to the grip logo on everything? Like, kind of like Eastside, right? Like they have the same thing everywhere. It's that guy swinging,
yeah.
and it's everywhere, right? But that creates that brand presence where it's like, oh, okay, like you're hammering it over people's head. Like, all right, that's Buena Gente, that's Buena Gente.
Mhm. Yeah.
Sweet.
Dude, I totally missed this hooks and slices shirt. This is dope. I just pulled it up right now. I'm like, dang, I
Well,
should have got on that.
dude, the colorway alone, to me, as soon as I saw the colorway with the green and the orange, that was like freaking high school era for me. That's like something you
Yeah,
would pick up at a skate shop, or
yeah, yeah,
like Ralph said, I was born and raised out here in LA, so you go to freaking Melrose or Fairfax back in the day, and that's something you're picking up in that type of area.
for sure, for sure. I think
Bro,
So
I think the thing that got the most reshares and comments is that golf, the Goya can one though.
oh
Uh,
yeah.
that's
Thing's
the one
dope.
that I'm like, dude, do I do more with it? And then my buddy at Matchstick, Dane, he did that art piece that I was able to donate to the Mark Anthony Foundation, and they auctioned that off. So that was cool.
it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, another
Yeah.
question when it comes to your gear, the baseball jersey. So, like you said, you even got some love with the range jersey. How did you go about choosing the colors? You went with the Oakland A's old school colors and the Pittsburgh Pirate colors. Are those your teams followed? Is there player? What was the decision behind that one?
Well, the Pittsburgh Pirates, it was the first one because of Roberto Clemente.
A huevo?
Ooh, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
So I that was the base of it, and I wanted to give it the mock neck to make it feel more like a golf, like a golf polo. And then the number 4 in the back, I didn't want to do 21 and just rip it directly as like the Roberto Clemente jersey. So I did 4, basically representing,
Yep.
you shank the ball, you got to yell out 4 or something like that.
Oh,
right?
trust me, dude. We used to do our releases at 4 o'clock on Saturday when we first started as a brand. Four
Oh,
is
really?
another number that means a lot to us. A lot of
Yeah,
fours when you play with us.
dude, and that killed that first jersey, and that's why I came out with the second one, which was the cream one, and that was just strictly just seeing like looking at jerseys, like baseball jerseys, and I was like, I like cream. Plus there's the
Yeah.
flang sweater. I just like the way that sweater looks. I wanted to do something cream, and then I had the cream guayabera, so it was just kind of like off of that. But the Oakland A's one, I wanted to give it the spin of like the Masters jersey, right, using the Oakland A's colors. But I'm not attached to any. My team is the Yankees, but as far as baseball, I'll watch them in the postseason. That's it. Like baseball's too boring for me to sit down and watch a whole game. So I'm not too attached to anything. But there are, like, I stopped completely and I said I'm not doing any more baseball jerseys. And people like ping me almost daily, like, when is this baseball jersey coming out again?
I'm one of those guys. I
Oh,
messaged
yeah,
you. I was like, bro, when you bringing this back? I need this.
Yeah. I am gonna come out just so you guys know, I'm coming out with another one, but it's not gonna be a restock. It's a different colorway. So it is after a team. It's using a team color, so it won't be just like a random, like a cream, like I did or anything. So, but that's.
Please don't be orange. Please don't be orange. Please don't be orange.
Yeah, man.
Speaking as a Dodger fan.
Yeah. I would imagine, right? LA colors would pop off because, similar to you guys, a lot of the followers are in the Los Angeles area. Yeah. So
right on. Cool. Well, Raul, I have one more question for John here. Did you want to ask anything before I launched into it?
No, let's go to it, man. We've taken a lot of John's time.
No, man, yeah. I'm more than happy to keep talking. This is a very enjoyable conversation.
Love it, dude. Love it.
Yeah, likewise on our end, man. This has been a really fun conversation. And so my wind down question for you is, one of our golf dreams, Raul and I share this dream, is we want to get out to Bandon Dunes. And we just saw that you were out at Bandon Dunes not too long ago. Can you tell us about that experience? What was that like, from, finding out you were going, to what was it like rolling up to the course? And then obviously tell us what it was like being out there on the golf course itself.
Yeah. First and foremost, shout out to the Chicha guys. Rico, one of my buddies, he's a chef and owner of Chicha Brewery and Restaurant, and that's I think they're in Salem and Eugene. And so they have a yearly golf outing, and unfortunately, one of the guys that always goes with them is part of their crew. Couldn't make it, so they reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, man," without knowing, like, we've never met in person. They were like, "Hey, would you like to join us?" And once I got there, was that I found out that they were kind of like, "How is John? Like, is he gonna be a not fun, or just somebody like super weird to be around?" But dude, I had a blast with those guys, and I'm very, very indebted to them, and very appreciative for them to think of me, right, to invite me. Bandon is about 2.5 hours from where I live. So when we got there, and I tell people all the time, "Hey, man, I'm not that great," and they're like, "Just come out, it doesn't matter." And then they're always kind of like pleasantly surprised. They're like, "Dude, you're not as bad as you say you are," right? So
under promise, over deliver, baby.
Exactly.
Yup.
And so the first day, right when I got there, we played 18, and it was okay. It rained a little bit. It wasn't too bad. Bro, the next day,
Downpour.
The second day, everything you could think of it, but it was a downpour. It was ridiculous, and the guys were cracking up. They're like, because they saw me the first day, I'm just like bubbly, laughing, joking around, trying to just trying to have a good time. Dude, the second day I was quiet. I was
No que
like,
no.
when is this gonna end, dog? You know? And right after the first 18, so on the second day we played 18, then we played 13. So right after the first 18, the flag was like flapping really hard, and that was after un diluvio, like the downpour of rain that hit us.
Jeez.
And after that, we played 13, and I slid because it's very undulated and very like hilly. I slid on one of the hills, had sand all up my back, down my pants and stuff, and the guys were just cracking up, bro. It was a very memorable experience. All that being said, everything and every event and every round and anywhere you go, it's about the people you're with. And I would go with the Chicha guys a million times more, dude. And I have a feeling that I'd have a great time with you guys, you know? It's really all about who you're with. Despite the weather, the third day was amazing. Sun was out. It was beautiful, right? But they made it a really, really cool experience. It's difficult, you know. Some of the courses there can be difficult, but we had a good time, dude. The caddies were so cool. Matter of fact, the caddies had so much fun with us that after the third day, they got dressed and they went out to play a par three with us. And that's, I don't know if you saw the video, but at the end of the video, you see them. First, you see them caddying for us, and at the end of the video, you see them playing with us. And they were like, "Bro, this is some of the most fun we've had caddying for a group of guys." Seriously, it was dope. It was a really cool experience.
That's amazing, dude.
What Buena Gente is all about, and that's why it just felt like so perfect that was what they got out of it, the caddies. That they were like, "Yo, you guys are so fun. I'll once my shift ends, I'll play with you guys." And Chicha had their beers, you know, with us. So they gave them beers and stuff like that. It was just a dope time. It was a really cool time. Yo, if you guys come down here, let me know, man.
Oh, even that's a given, brother.
You drive up, just swing by my place and we'll hang for a bit.
All right, John. Sure. So we're going to hold you accountable for that one. But one of the things you mentioned, and this is a big part of whenever we golf, it's definitely the music. The music, sometimes we partake in a little alcoholic beverage, if you will. But what's the playlist, dude? We're heading out there. We're going to golf with you. What's the playlist you're putting on for us? Well, what's going to be included in there, dude?
Lately, I've been real into Hawaiiana. Like, I mean, it's probably the only thing I listen to now on like in the cart that I have bumping in the cart, because it's got like reggae, ska, like island vibes. It's just chill, you know. I grew up listening to a lot of hip hop and rap, and then as I grew older, I started liking my dad's music, the salsa music from the 70s and the 80s. So it's either whatever's chill, you know. At my age, Raul, I don't know if you can attest to this, but we're very aware now that music and lyrics has an effect on us and how we feel.
Without it.
Yeah, right. And so I'm trying to move away from all the, you know, the perreo and the shooting and all this, you know, like angry rap. And I'm just trying to be out there, have a good time, because it does have an effect on me, you know.
Yeah.
And so, Hawaiiana. I was actually in LA and they were in Pomona. You know, it wasn't super close to where I was, but I wanted to go to LA I wanted to go to Pomona and see them. But I missed them, man. But yeah, that's really what I'm bumping a lot now.
That's awesome, dude. Look, and I will agree with you 100%. And just putting that right vibe of music, putting you in the right space, dude, it even helps out your golf game, dude. Yeah, honestly, it gets that rhythm, especially with us being Latino. Rhythm is a big part of our culture. Yeah. And look, nothing against hip hop and rap. There's a place and time for it.
Yeah.
I don't see it all. There's a time where you want to listen to the golf course a little bit, get you in that right mindset, but more to it, I will definitely agree with you with the rhythms and the vibes that you get from the music you put out there, puts you in a right state of mind and enjoy the game even more.
Yeah, man, 100%. Yeah, that does it for me. And salsa music, I mean, I love salsa. So anytime I could go out, you know, listen to a little bit of of that, it's always a good day for me.
Good
know?
stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Dude, one of the goals that I have with this podcast is we base everything out of Spotify, but we're on, Apple and all the other platforms. But
Yeah.
on Spotify you could do joint playlists. I kind of want to start having our guests. If you guys have Spotify, if you don't, it's cool. I could probably get a song or two from you. But do just like a joint playlist of all our guests, and that'll be our golf playlist. Like have
No,
people
that's
follow it.
dope.
That's a good idea, dude. I like that
Do
one.
that. Do
Okay,
that.
cool. Are you on Spotify, John? Do you use
Yeah, yeah.
Spotify?
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna create
Oh,
a joint. I'm gonna create a joint playlist. We'll get the details here afterward. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna start a joint playlist. We'll call it the Los Golferos and guests. And
Oh, I love that. I love it.
yeah, and that'll become our golfing playlist from now on.
Oh man.
Somehow
like
I
that.
think Dom is gonna come out with the most gangster rap of them all, dude.
I know. We'll put that on the tail end. That's like when you sink the birdie putt and you feel like a badass. You're like, yeah.
That's gonna be Dom's.
The whole round was crap. You just want to listen to rap and punch somebody.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dom, man. That guy's super cool.
Oh, dude, we love Dom.
Yeah, we love him.
And Derek too, but Dom.
And
For sure, no,
I'm
both of them for sure. Both of them for sure. Yeah.
Nah, they're both really cool guys.
Yeah,
Heck
I had a
yeah.
great time talking to them. Same with you guys, man. I appreciate this. Really
Dude,
Thank you.
we appreciate you being on, man, and love what you're freaking doing. Like I said, ever since I saw that, it was like, dude, somebody that's putting a different vibe out there. That did it for me, dude. So I've been a big fan of your brand for a while now.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. The feeling is mutual, guys. The feeling is mutual. So I've been talking to a lot of folks, and I can't wait to actually meet a lot of you guys. Hopefully sometime soon I could be back in LA with time and with that purpose of meeting you guys. Hopefully, maybe soon there's some Buena Gente event out there. There's something in the works. Hopefully we get out there, and I'll let you guys know with enough time so you guys show up. But yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to meeting a lot of you guys in person.
Yeah, man.
Love it, dude.
Likewise.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that, John.
Yeah, bro.
Heck yeah. All right, guys. We'll go ahead and wind it down. So once again, John, thanks for being on with us. And to our guests, Salud Golferos.
Thank you, guys. Peace.